We're live.
So I need to minimize Facebook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we live?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I am Jennifer Black. I have a special guest with me. Bear with me. We are just getting the kinks together. So just give me 1 second. All right. Okay, so I have a special guest here. I'm Jennifer Black. I can't see myself though. Can you see me, Kim?
I can see you. You have to bring up your Zoom window.
Oh, you guys, bear with me. Okay, here it is right here. Okay. All right, this is fun. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Black, and I am your lead concierge for First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services. I have a special guest, Kim Wilson, with me right there. So beautiful. And we are just getting the kinks together. It's actually 7 o'clock. See, that's why you got to start early. To be early is to be on time, right?
Amen.
Everyone that's on here, good evening. Please share this broadcast. And if you cannot watch it right now and you're watching the replay, welcome as well. So everyone just check in, say hello, where you're from, and just say hello, wave a little bit. We're going to have a really good discussion tonight. I am so excited. So join us. You could definitely share. It's going to be beneficial to everyone. Everyone can definitely benefit from this conversation and can definitely relate in some kind of way. So come on in. I'll give it another minute or so, but welcome everyone. I'm so excited to have you. Again, I'm Jennifer Black if you are just now joining, and I have a special guest tonight. All right.
Okay. Yeah, and Jennifer, if you wanted to, you can minimize this window and go to your Facebook to see how it's looking.
All right, let's see who we have. Let's see who we have here, and then we'll go and get started. Okay, everybody. Thank you for bearing with us. Let's see who we have here. Hi, Karen. Hey, Shells. Thanks for hopping on. Again, everyone, please like and share. Have a special guest. This is going to be really good. I'm so excited. I'm like a little kid in the candy store because I'm just that excited. So hop on.
And just so you know, Jennifer, so far so good with you being out that window and me being here. It's looking very clear on my end. So
awesome. Thank you everyone for the hearts and the likes. I appreciate it. Again, if you're able to share this broadcast, please do so. It'll be very beneficial to a lot of people. So let me go ahead. And again, if you can't watch this and you're watching the replay, we welcome you as well. All right, so we're going to answer all your questions. And if we don't answer your questions, you can definitely DM me and we will get those questions answered for you as well. But please feel free to comment, to ask questions while we're moving along, because you may have questions and concerns, or you may just want to comment and you can relate. So do that as well. Vent if you want. Do what you will in these here comments, okay? All right, so I am Jennifer Black. I am with First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services, where we help families navigate through the aftermath of loss. So what does that look like? Basically, we help you before someone passes away, in that we help you with life insurance, last will and testament, those things that you need before you pass away to make sure your family is set. We help you during, once someone passes away and you have all that funeral stuff, all the affairs. I'm sorry, you guys. It's my assistant here. All your affairs and anything that you need to deal with during that funeral time, because we know that you're not in the right frame of mind, so you need help with that. And then lastly, we help you once the funeral is over, and that is when that grief becomes a reality for sure. Now I have my notes here because you guys know I can go all different ways here. So I want to keep myself on the straight and narrow for sure. All right. So we help you with those things. So we have professionals at First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services to assist you in different areas. And I always ensure that those professionals first have integrity and they care and want the best for our clients. So with everything going on today, people are searching for help and answers to cope with the various types of grief that they're dealing with, right? This discussion will broaden that perspective of grief and help people to take that information, the things we discussed today, and apply it for those different types of loss. Now, I have with me a special guest, Kim Wilson. Love her. She's a licensed professional counselor and the owner of Kim Wilson Experience LLC and Wilson Professional Counseling and Consulting LLC. She has worked in behavioral health since 2006. Kim Wilson uses her education in human behavior to facilitate dynamic workshops and seminars on effective communication, work-life balance, very important, stress management, and other customized talks. She is also the creator of a podcast called Amazing Relationships with Kim Wilson, which is featured on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Music. So welcome, Kim. Yay! So happy to have you. All right, so tell us a little bit about yourself. You've got all these accolades, but tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into this.
Yes, I usually carry the title relationship expert. I think it's a little easier to digest. I believe that relationships are our solution to everything because there's nowhere in this world you're going to go where there is no relationship. You're going to have a relationship with your neighbor, your doctor, your mechanic, your teacher, the person at the deli. And you know, I believe usually when we have balance in the relationships around us, we experience that balance internally. Whether we're struggling, we're going through something, relationships become our saving grace, or they can become our challenge and barrier to healing if we are in toxic relationships. And that's my message every day, all day. I'm all things love. I love love.
Love. Okay, all right. Hey,
Yes.
hey, we all should love love. Make
Yes.
the world a little bit better, right? Okay, so let's get into these conversations. I first want to talk about the different types of grief. There are various losses people are experiencing with grief. The first one is people. So people are losing their loved ones, friends, close associates. Not only are they losing them, but they're losing them in traumatic ways. And so let's talk a little bit about that, how people are dealing with that.
Yeah. COVID-19 has brought a lot of grief and on so many levels because a lot of people have lost relationships. When you think about going to work every day, some people look forward to just having lunch with Sally, at 12:30, just, or even taking that walk in the office park. Some people, they have lost relationships, just even being able to talk to their teachers, their principals. And I think on the more extreme level, just people who have transitioned from this earth. And so whenever we lose something, we can grieve. If you lose your house because of, um, you know, you weren't able to afford it anymore, you can grieve the people in that neighborhood. And it can leave this feeling of emptiness. There's this vacancy. And that's what loss is. It's something that's no longer there. And, the brain, the heart is trying to search to fill that spot. And when you can't fill that spot, you can feel disconnected and you can feel lost. And it creates this sadness. And grief is another word for sadness. Loss can make us feel disconnected.
Absolutely. Are you in my notes? Are you in my notes? Because, and that's what I'm saying with the different types of grief, from people to jobs. And that's the job is a whole lane in its own, because it's attached with money. And when you're dealing with people with money, that can definitely put you in a depression. Mm-hmm. And so between jobs and relationships, social grief, I saw someone that put up a status saying no one's talking about social grief. These social butterflies that are used to going out and, happy hours, as you mentioned, and different things, they are really having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
A really hard time.
Yeah, and when you think about people who may live alone, and that can create a different level of grief as well. So one of the things that I like to think about it, like relationships are investments because we spend a lot of time building them, and especially when we share pieces of ourselves with people and they get to know us, and we've created this community that feels non-judgmental, and we start to experience acceptance, and that can be a very rewarding thing on so many levels. And so if you put all your money, say for instance, you won the lottery and somebody gave you, $3 billion and you were checking that account every day, it's like, whoa, I'm never going to have to worry again. And then the next day you open up that account and it says zero. It's like, my goodness, well, where is it? Bring it back. And it can create this panic because all of a sudden you're thinking, well, how will I do this? How will I do that? It became your security, one of the things that helped you to feel stable. And such is the thing with friendships and relationships. People can actually contribute to us feeling safe and protected. Somebody we can park our thoughts at, our feelings, and to feel non-judgmental and to feel like we're not being judged. And when we lose that, that can be very unnerving and can create this down spiral inside of us.
Yeah, absolutely. People living alone, especially, I do have a sense of I feel bad for them because they don't live with anyone, right? And they can't go anywhere. And for some people, they don't want to go around their parents or certain family members because they may be older and they don't want to compromise that other loved one's health because they may be older. So that's even harder. I remember when it first started, when the COVID first started, and I took my daughter to see my mom, she was like, oh no, had her mask, like, nope, social distance. We had to see her from outside. And I saw another family seeing their grandmother. And it was like sad. I was so sad. Like my heart was so sad because that touch and that feeling, you can't do that, because you want to keep your family safe. So it's an adjustment for everyone, especially because it's like the new normal. I don't know for now.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have that touch, and especially when you lose someone, that is the number one thing you need, is that hug, that love. That it's going to be a rub on the back, but we could barely do that either.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say are some ways to cope with those things, between the social grief, job loss, relationships, a loved one? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so everything is virtual now. So I'm doing everything virtually from what I do professionally, even my volunteer opportunities, just finding different opportunities to connect to, whether it's a professional organization. You can even do karaoke online. There's something called Smule. Yeah, you can smule.com and you can interact with other people. So there's different ways that we can still engage and do it safely. So I say find something to connect to. Take an inventory of all the things that you like, your interests, and start looking for those opportunities online. It's community. And whenever you can see somebody face to face, like we're seeing each other face to face, this feels no different for me than if you were sitting in a chair next to me. So just being able to, I can see your colors, I can see your hair, I can experience your voice. So I highly recommend to engage because we don't have to sit at home and twiddle our thumbs. Anytime we move, it prevents us from getting stuck. The only way we can get stuck anywhere in life is if we don't move financially, physically, emotionally. And so whenever we connect, even virtually, it's a solution.
Yeah, the staying connected is very important, and that I talked about that in one of my other lives in regards to how to be supportive when someone has lost someone, and that is staying connected, calling. I mean, like you said, we're doing everything virtually now, so if you calling me a lot, it's not bugging me at this point because it's virtual. So if I say that if you know someone that is dealing with any kind of loss or anything, just keep checking on them, whether it's FaceTime, a call. You can get on, there's an app called House Party, which is really fun. You can have different people and you can play games. It's a fun thing. So staying connected, that is key for sure. And just, it's not the fact that you're always on your phone or you're always FaceTiming. People need that. People really, really need that, to see a smile, to hear, hey, how you doing? Or some kind of connection each day, especially when they're dealing with these kinds of loss, when we're all dealing with these kinds of losses.
Yeah, and I think one of the what stood out for me is when you said, check on me. And I want to say too, because I've had this conversation with a couple of people, and somebody told me, well, they didn't even call and check on me. Well, did you call and check on them? And I think sometimes, just because you live by yourself doesn't mean that you can't pick up the phone. You have to be proactive in, that's part of our self-care. You got to be proactive in that as well, because sometimes when we sit home, we really can have negative thoughts and say, well, such and such hasn't called me. It's been 2 weeks. Well, let's be a little bit more proactive, because people can always read your mind. And sometimes people, if they feel like you don't want to be bothered, they respect your space, because if it's not always a great experience when they call you, it's like, hello, and you answer the phone with a dry, hey, it's like, whoa.
Whoa.
Let me walk back.
No, never mind.
Yeah, I mean, so to be proactive as well by making those calls. And I can just tell you, Jennifer, for me, some of the things that I've been doing, I've enjoyed cooking, experimenting with recipes, reading books, watching documentaries. Just writing things and working on different projects. I've enjoyed doing all of that and really embracing the slowdown, because when we go back to 6 months ago, that's probably a request of the request of a lot of people. I need more time. Well, we have it.
I'm all the time in the world.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And also, speaking on 6 months ago, and let me just go back to the social grieving, because for me, I'm gonna be honest, it was church. I loved going to church because
Mhm.
I loved the community. I felt like that was my plug. I knew that, yes, I know we are the church. Yes, I get that. But I'm also saying just being with the people that I love, that I'm with on a weekly basis, twice a week, and we just get to praise God together and do different things for the ministry. And plus, I'm very involved in my church, so it really slowed me down. But that was a good thing, because I did get to the point where I was too involved in that and not so much focused on my relationship with God. So that was a great thing for me. But also on the other end, it was like, oh man, like I felt like I lost something. Like, oh my goodness, I need this. But it made like you said, it made you slow down, cook more, read more, focus on your goals, reevaluate your goals, self-reflection. This COVID showed
Yes,
me for sure.
yes, yes.
So it did it there was the good and the bad. But and so let me fast forward back to, like you were saying, with checking in, which we were talking about, and it just being a two-way street. And people will say, she didn't call me, but she was on Facebook. That's a big one. Well, just reach out, and then when they answer, you could be talking for 2 hours. You never know. But at this point, you just reach out. Life is short at that. People are passing away, so just reach out to people. Reach out to people, because you need it. You may need it more than them, and they don't even know that you need it. So just reaching out is never hurt nobody. It's okay. It's fine. So we're talking about, so that's a healthy way to deal with grief and these losses. What are some unhealthy ways that we can start to, that we should pay attention to when we are dealing with these things where we may need some extra help, some professional counseling?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, just to kind of connect to what the lasting part of what you were saying, the social grief, when we start isolating, especially when we already had some of those behaviors at first, just paying attention to isolating and not connecting. People need people. So, because whatever there is to live must be nurtured and fed. So, just feeding the emotional part of ourselves. So, that's one, watching isolation. The other thing is we can start to overeat, not eat. We can drink more than usual. Or some people, if they already had a substance abuse issue, and we're not talking about it a lot, but there are people, whether they put on a jersey to go to work or a suit and a tie, they have substance abuse issues, and it can impact the household. And when anytime somebody turns to something in excess, that's their way of coping. It's not a healthy way, but they do it because they don't want to think about their reality. And they engage in those behaviors because it takes them away from the pain. So it's like, oh, even for an hour, I didn't feel that. I put that on repeat. So even pain pills, taking, pain pills and stuff like that. Those are unhealthy ways that people try to cope. And the other thing, sometimes we explode. We try to control the environment with our attitude. That is an unhealthy way. Sometimes when people are walking on eggshells around you, and that's what we've seen, during these changes, because people are spending more time in the house together. And so before COVID, we were doing a lot of things that helped us to participate in our self care, such as getting pedicures, going to the barbershop, going to the spa, even going to the movies. I'm married, but I had no problem with going to the movies alone. And just like you said, for you, you love church. There's something about being in the building for some people, just the way it is decorated, the dignity that comes along with it, and just even the artwork. If your church has artwork, for me, the movie theater, I love the smell of the butter.
That's rare.
Butter.
In the movie theater, I don't think they're opening. I don't know. I can get your own butter.
Yes, and so when we lose all of these things and disconnect from these things, that's when people can start to participate in some of those unhealthy behaviors, like isolating, over drinking, overeating, doing drugs, not responding to problems appropriately, being angry or shutting down.
Yeah, people are definitely on eggshells, and I mean and I not the COVID, the police brutality, the social distancing. I mean, even when I go out, to be honest, I'm like, just unfortunately, I'm waiting for something to happen because so many people are on eggshells. So now my lens is just totally different because I know that people are stressed and the racism and it's so much going on that I have to check myself. But I don't want to live like that either. I don't want to live like that either. So I think that it's just important, obviously, and with me, God is definitely my source of strength. That may not be the case for everybody else, but whatever it is for you, that's what it is for you. But also just practicing those healthy habits in regard, while we're in this situation, and identifying the ones that are not like it. Even sleeping, oversleeping, and just wanting to be in the bed all the time because, again, you don't want to deal with that reality of what's going on right now. So, what would you say would be for someone to be, besides calling? Is there anything else that people can? How can they be a good support system if they see that their friend is, or their loved one is, sleeping more or drinking more, but that person may not feel, they're like, I'm fine, I'm okay. What can they do, especially since we're dealing with this virtual reality?
Yeah, you know what? I still love pen and paper, sending a card in the mail. Yeah, sending a care package in the mail. There's nothing like receiving the gift of a book. We still can do those things. I thought about you today, and when we reopen, or you don't even have to wait for reopening. Here's a gift card, and you can have dinner sent to you, delivered to you. You can, here's a card from the grocery store. Buy yourself something nice, and that lets people know that you appreciate and value that relationship because you took that extra step. So we still can do. I think this is a really great time to press the reset button, because sometimes we can become comfortable inside of relationships and we forget to show people that we appreciate them, and we take for granted that somebody is going to always be there. So whether we're making even a private video, it's like, hey, I create a video for you, push play, an audio message. So those are things that we can do, whether we are in a pandemic or outside of a pandemic.
Right. Totally agree. Totally agree. Why do you think self-care is important in general, especially now, but just overall?
Yeah, self-care is a part of restoring and renewal, because when we participate in self-care, we are putting back what was taken. Whenever you share your time with somebody, when you help somebody, that's energy being released, and we have to be intentional about putting that back, because If you continue to drive your car and you don't refuel and put gas in it, you're going to give out of gas and you will stop and you will not be able to go. But when you participate in self care, just like you refuel your car, that's you refueling yourself so you can continue to be the best that you can be. Before you can take care of anybody else, you have to take care of yourself first. And that's what self love means. That self care is self love. You're restoring and renewing what was released and what
That
was taken.
is so good. Everybody needs it. Everybody, self-care is not with your family. Hence the word self.
Yes,
By yourself.
yes, yes,
I think people think, well, I'm with my family. We're just watching TV, but you're not. You are still exerting energy in somehow, whether it is playing something with your child or doing something with your husband. It still requires your energy, your attention in some kind of way. It's not to say that you don't enjoy it, but I think that it is important to be by yourself and do something. And it doesn't have to be. I think people are always think about, and I know because I was one of them, a spa day or getting my feet done. Maybe that's for some people, but for me, it could just be sitting in the car at Target eating an icy or something by myself, so I can hear my own thoughts, meditate.
yes, yes. And meditation is a huge solution because meditation gives you this moment of stillness. And sometimes I think people have this myth that meditation is sitting Indian style, like for 10 hours. No, you can participate in a 60-second meditation. There's so many guided meditations online too. um, Even if you Google different types of meditation, one of my favorite is a loving kindness meditation where you can extend kindness and peace towards others. I just love hearing the words, may I be at peace. May I be at ease. May I be loved. It's like, yes, you may. And so, so there's so many different meditations and so many apps out there to help us. So yes, meditation is a really good one just to kind of sit with your thoughts for a minute. I don't think anybody else's thoughts should be louder than the thoughts in your head. And it gives you a moment to, even if you put your headphones on and do a whole Mary J. Blige set for like 15 minutes, it's like, all right, I'm up.
And what you said, that was really good. I guess that was an app that you were saying about loving kindness. I think we're so hard on ourselves. Self-care also, I believe, is loving yourself, is forgiving yourself, being kind to yourself. And I'm one of those. And that's how I know, because I do that to myself. I think about regrets or things of the past. I start to live in the past, and we can't do that because we'll get stuck there, and those thoughts will be louder. My past thoughts will be louder than what my future is or what my present is. But being kind to yourself, you did great. It doesn't have to be anything all astronomical. It could just be you got through today with all positive thoughts. Be proud of yourself. Give yourself credit for the little things, well, the things that we think are little. Being kind to yourself, I think that's the first step to self-care for sure.
Yes. Jennifer, we think people are mean to us sometimes, but we can just be brutal to ourselves, with those negative thoughts. It's not going to happen. You shouldn't even try that. Who's going to read it? Who's going to know it? And we can just, I love, I forget the psychiatrist that coined the phrase, but those ants crawling around in our head, automatic negative thoughts. And they just start crawling around those automatic negative thoughts. But we have the power to crush those ants. And even when there's a negative thought coming in, we have the power to put a positive thought right next to it. And you said something earlier when you talked about the racism. And so, there's a lot of racial trauma people are experiencing. And for people, when you have friends from all walks of life, it can be difficult to navigate through those conversations. But we, with self-awareness, and we have those conversations whenever we talk about something, that's how we heal our feelings. When we experience trauma is another word for pain. When we experience trauma, grief, loss, we talk about it so we can move those feelings through us.
Right. Right. So speaking of talking about it, you mentioned earlier that me sitting next to you is no different than you and I virtually. How do you feel about therapy? Because I know people in counseling, people have different views on it. Some people want to be right there and just face to face because they feel like they just want to be face to face versus virtual. Some feel like it's not as personal or effective. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So people, I heard those things probably 6 months ago, 8 months ago, but since I have seen everybody virtually for the past 3 or 4 months, I haven't had anybody to say this doesn't feel right for me. I mean, so the same, people, um, they share, they cry, they laugh, yeah, and the pain hits no different. They release no different. I think it's something that was probably here. We can create those narratives in our mind. And the thing is, what happened? Human beings. We're so resilient, and we adapt. And I think I've just I have personally observed a lot of the human beings just adapt during this COVID-19 pandemic. So some people may say that, but that has not been my experience over the past 4 months. I know some of the people who may have said that 6 months ago, but they're definitely not saying it now because they just want this safe space to release, to share, and just not have those feelings trapped. They want to be validated. They want to be heard. And me sitting in this chair, whether they on the other side of the screen, they know that Kim is listening. I'm validating and I'm offering a healthy perspective.
Awesome, awesome. People, I agree with you. People were probably saying that more before this pandemic, but as of today, people are like, please, I need to get in. People are contact First 24 for recommendations, and one professional therapist that I called up, I'm booked till September virtually. So people now, I'm sure the perspective has changed. Like whenever I can get in, let me get in, whether it's virtually or face to face. So this was so great. So lastly, how can we stay positive while dealing with different types of grief?
Yeah. One of my favorite resources, my go to is books. I love books. And if you don't like to read audiobooks, using different platforms, the library allows you to check out audiobooks now. So even on CD, because whenever we introduce something like books or audiobooks, what you're doing is dominating the language, or you're developing a language so you can understand what you're feeling and what you're thinking. So whenever we have a language, it helps us to communicate. Just when you think about when we were all little kids, we didn't know what somebody just told us to recite ABCs. We didn't know it was going to turn into reading and writing. It's just like A, B, C, D. And next thing you know, and that was a form of repetition. And so whenever the brain works on sequencing, whenever you repeat something and you do it well and the right way, you become skilled at it. So when you are working through something like grief and you become very skilled at picking up a resource like a book. One of my favorite books about grief is by, I was looking for it, H. Norman Wright. He's done a lot of work on grief. And I really like the way he talks about grief in his book because he goes through different kinds of grief. And once again, it gives you a language. And anytime we have a language, we can start to talk and discuss. The other thing, music. Music is a universal language. You can go to a country and not speak the language, but somebody put on some music with some good beats. You're like, and you'll start dancing around in a circle with nobody. You don't even know this person. Yeah. So music, and I say, if you are at home and if you feel a little gloomy, I like to put on a comedy because when you are laughing in that moment, even if it's for 10 seconds, you are not in pain. You are not thinking about the worst. You are laughing. It's just like it cannot be morning and night at the same time. It's going to be one or the other. So when you're laughing, you're either sitting inside of love or you're sitting inside of pain.
I love it. I love it. This was so good. So tell us how people can contact you and learn more about your services because, again, people need help. And you are a light of love. So you can put it in the, someone put it in the comments or you can tell them.
Yes, and then I can always go back, and if somebody has some questions, we can respond to questions even afterwards.
Absolutely.
My website is kimwilsonspeaks.com. I am a relationship expert. If you are in Georgia or New Jersey, I can take you on as a client for counseling. I do relationship coaching, helping you to be your best self to get through relationships. So you can go to my website again, www.kimwilsonspeaks.com, and all of my social media icons are there, is there as well.
Awesome, awesome. All right. Did anyone have any questions in the comments? I'm just speaking to my assistant here. Okay, no questions. But if you want to contact Kim, you can. You can also go to www.first24loss.com to learn more about First 24 Bereavement Concierge Services as well. We thank you so much for joining us. Please share this video. It was definitely great. Kim, thank you so much. Do you have any last words for us?
I want to say thank you so much, Jennifer, for having me. And at the very top of this presentation, I talked about relationships are important. I had a beautiful relationship with somebody else that introduced me to Jennifer, and we connected and started a relationship. That's what I'm saying. The power, the healing, the success, the growth is in the relationship. So I'm so happy that Jennifer invited me to her platform and trusted me. Thank you, Jennifer.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we will see you soon.